I returned home after nearly a year overseas, expecting to find my apartment just the way I left it. The plane had barely landed, and my mind was already racing with thoughts of relaxation. But when I walked into my apartment, something didn't feel right. The door was unlocked. I could hear noises inside. Shoes that weren't mine were on the rack. The living room was a mess, and there were things scattered around that didn't belong to me. My heart raced. Something was wrong, and it felt like everything I had known was about to change. As I stepped inside, I saw my younger sister, Clarice, lounging on the couch like she owned the place. "Welcome back, sis," she said casually, not even looking up from her phone. My mouth went dry. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to stay calm. She shrugged and continued scrolling. "Didn't Mom and Dad tell you? I'm staying here for a while. It's temporary," she replied, as if it were nothing. I felt my blood boil. This was my home. I'd rented it out to a friend, not to her. She had no right to be here. My brain struggled to process what was happening. "How long are you planning to stay?" I asked, doing my best not to raise my voice. Clarice paused, glancing at me before answering. "I don't know, maybe until I get a job," she said, as if that made perfect sense. The words hit me like a punch. "You're telling me you've moved into my apartment without asking me?" I snapped, trying to control my anger. "You didn't even think to ask me before making this decision?" Clarice didn't seem to care. "Mom and Dad said it was fine," she shrugged. I couldn't believe my parents had done this without consulting me. Anger bubbled inside me and my heart pounded in my chest. I immediately reached for my phone, dialing my mom's number. After a few rings, she picked up. "Welcome back, Audrey. How was your flight?" she asked cheerfully. "Did you know Clarice is living in my apartment?" I demanded, not holding back. There was a pause on the other end, and I could almost hear her thinking. "Yes, we thought it would be fine. She needed a place to stay while you were gone. It's only temporary." "But you didn't ask me!" I exploded, my frustration spilling over. "You just decided this without asking for my permission?" My mom's voice was calm but firm. "Don't overreact, Audrey. She's your sister. Families help each other." That sentence hit me like a slap. Does being family mean you can ignore someone's boundaries? I shot back, my voice shaking. I didn't want to yell at my mom, but I couldn't help it. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. The anger that had been simmering for days finally broke loose. I turned to Clarice. "You need to leave." Clarice didn't move. She just stared at me as though I was being unreasonable. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked, sounding genuinely confused. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I don't know, but you're not staying here any longer," I replied, my voice cold. I dropped my bag on the floor and headed toward my bedroom, feeling the weight of the situation pressing on me. I wasn't sure how to handle it. The apartment that had once been my sanctuary now felt like a war zone, and my sister was the enemy I couldn't escape. The next morning, things hadn't improved. I woke up to the sound of Clarice's video game blasting from the living room. The once peaceful space I called home had turned into a circus. I tried to talk to Clarice again, hoping maybe she had come to her senses. "Clarice, when are you leaving?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Without even pausing her game, she shrugged. "I don't know. Mom and Dad said it's fine. I don't have a job and you're hardly here anyway." I couldn't believe her audacity. It felt like she was mocking me. I felt my anger growing by the minute. This wasn't just about space anymore. It was about respect and boundaries. You can't just live here without any plan. You need to figure things out, Clarice. You're not a guest, you're a squatter, I said, feeling the tension in the room thicken. Clarice rolled her eyes. Whatever. I'm looking for a job. I knew it was a lie. She wasn't looking for anything except to make herself at home in my space. The frustration was building inside me, and I didn't know how much longer I could keep it together. My phone rang. It was Glenn, my fiancé. He had been listening to my rants about Clarice for days now. "Audrey, I get it. You're frustrated, but have you set a deadline with your parents?" Glenn asked, his voice calm. "A deadline? For Clarice?" I scoffed. "She's been living here without asking me. I just want her gone." Glenn paused, his voice taking on a more practical tone. "You need to talk to your parents and set a firm deadline. This situation won't fix itself unless you make it clear it's not okay." I hated admitting it, but he was right. So, I called a family meeting. I hoped maybe, just maybe, this would get through to my parents. When I arrived at their house, I immediately felt the tension in the air. My mom was wearing a nervous smile, and Dad looked as if he were preparing for battle. Clarice didn't even acknowledge me as I walked in. She was too busy with her phone. I took a deep breath and sat down. "We need to talk about Clarice living in my apartment," I said firmly, trying to keep my voice steady. Dad raised an eyebrow. "What's the problem?" "The problem is that she's living there without my permission," I nearly shouted. "You can't just make these decisions for me without even consulting me first." Clarice glanced up from her phone, scoffing. "You're overreacting. It's not that big of a deal," she said, as if everything was fine. I felt a rush of frustration. "It is a big deal. This is my home, not a free place for you to crash in. You've taken over my life, and I'm done letting it happen." The room fell silent. My mom looked at my dad, waiting for him to speak. Finally, Dad sighed. "Fine, 2 weeks. That's it. She has 2 weeks to find another place." I was shocked. For once, my dad had sided with me. Clarice's face fell, her eyes wide. "What? 2 weeks? You can't be serious," she snapped, clearly angry. "I'm serious," Dad replied, his voice hard. Clarice didn't say anything else. She stormed out of the room, and I felt a brief sense of victory. But the relief was short-lived. The next few days were filled with silent tension. Clarice didn't look for a new place, and I could feel the resentment between us growing. As the days passed, things only got worse. Clarice's presence felt more suffocating, and I could barely stand being around her. She acted as if nothing had changed. When I wasn't at home, she lounged on the couch, playing games or scrolling through her phone. One afternoon, my neighbor Julia stopped by. She seemed curious, but there was a hint of concern in her eyes. "So, your sister is living with you?" she asked casually. I nodded, annoyed. "Yeah, apparently it's no big deal." Julia's expression shifted. "It's been pretty lively over there. Lots of people coming and going." "What do you mean?" I asked, my stomach tightening. Julia hesitated before lowering her voice. "I've noticed some suspicious people coming in and out. Last night there was a party. Loud music. People I've never seen before." A chill ran through me. What was Clarice involved in? I had to know more. I went straight to Clarice's room, knocking on the door. "What's going on? What are you hiding?" I demanded. Clarice shot me an angry look. "Nothing. It's just some friends hanging out. Why are you so paranoid?" But I didn't believe her. Something wasn't right. That night, Julia came over again, looking worried. "I saw your sister meeting someone in the parking lot," she said in a low voice. "She had a lot of cash, and it looked like she was exchanging something with them. Do you know anything about this?" I felt my heart drop into my stomach. This wasn't just about living in my apartment anymore. My sister was in trouble, and I was unknowingly involved. I had to find out what was going on, and I couldn't let it go on any longer. I searched her room that night and found a locked box hidden under a pile of clothes. I couldn't resist the urge to open the box. When I did, my worst fears were confirmed. Inside was cash, lots of it, and drugs. Clarice was involved in something illegal, and my apartment had been turned into her base of operations. I felt a wave of betrayal and fear wash over me. I confronted her the next morning, demanding an explanation. Her response? "I'm just holding it for a friend." The lie was weak, and I knew it. I gave her an ultimatum. She had until the weekend to leave. No excuses, no more time to hide. This was the end.